shareholder and member of Clyde Snow Securities, Government and Corporate Investigations, Enforcement, and White-Collar Crime Group. That's a mouthful. His practice focuses regulatory enforcement investigations and litigation before the U.S. Department of Justice, the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, and other federal and state agencies. Mr. Baker served with the SEC, so the Utah Securities and Exchange Commission, for over 10 years. During his time there, he prosecuted a wide range of securities violations and also served as a Special Assistant United States Attorney for the U.S. Department of Justice. Prior to joining Clyde Snow, Mr. Baker also served as in-house counsel for a publicly listed company and was a shareholder at 2 major law firms. Mr. Baker was recently appointed to a second term as a commissioner on the Utah Securities Commission. He frequently speaks on investment-related anti-fraud best practices, writes articles, and is quoted in the press. He is the founder of Fraud College, which has to date sponsored 2 community anti-fraud awareness events with national reach. We are privileged to have him here today. Please welcome Brent Baker.
And just say, Tom, ditto. That was very good. Fraud, affinity fraud, is no different than any other breach of trust. I consider affinity fraud no different than domestic abuse, even child abuse, because what you're doing is you're taking advantage of a particular relationship of trust. This notion I like of trust circles helps you understand that it is a trust-based problem. So, trust circles are people that like the song like Oasis. This is a trust-based circle. Affinity fraud preys on that trust in certain interesting psychological ways and legal ways as well, that we'll talk about here. So, affinity fraud and fraud in general is also agnostic, as Tom pointed out. It's not a Mormon problem. It's not a religion problem. I have seen, and I guess let me backpedal a little bit. So I have 2 perspectives on this. I worked for the federal government. I came to Utah to work for a federal judge. I spent a couple years working for a judge, went to work for the government. There are 2 different levels of government regulators that focus on this sort of fraud. You've got the federal level, which is the United States Securities and Exchange Commission, and then you have the Utah Division of Securities. Both are areas that you'll see in a slide that you should go to if you sense something, if you see something. I worked for the United States Securities and Exchange Commission for 10 plus years, and then also spent a couple of years prosecuting criminal violations of the federal securities laws for a couple of years. So I have this unique perspective. I have a practice. I left in late 2005. I have a practice now that focuses exclusively on this, and I have that perspective now. The investment laws are a very small box, and it's easy to step outside of that box. So I'll represent those people. People oftentimes say, how can you defend these people, these predators, these I don't do any street crime, so I don't have to worry about murderers and rapists. But I also won't represent people who have intentionally set out to take grandma's pension funds. It's so easy to have a toe fault in this highly regulated environment now. We'll talk about that. So that's sort of my background a little bit. All right. Again, I've seen these sorts of trust-based frauds occur in ethnic communities. There was a big one that spread through the U.S. and was in the Caribbean American community. Recently in Orange County, there was a radio host of an Iranian Persian-speaking station committed a massive affinity fraud in Central California based on Iranian Persian community. Again, I think Tom's right. It's a little more prevalent in areas where there are higher concentrations of trust-based groups. Utah. What's our biggest trust-based group? The Mormon Church. That's a very trust-based group. You see it a lot here, but per capita, no more than you do anywhere else. We've lost our designation as the #1 fraud capital. I know that's disappointing, but this is one area that you don't want to be #1. And we are now, I think, #3 as of the last FBI study that I saw, surpassed by South Florida, and I think also Arizona. Obviously, the target communities there are big targets. But there is an interesting statistic that Tom also referred to. There's an Economist article. So I did 2 events, community awareness events. I had left the government. I knew this was a problem. I had been appointed as a commissioner at the state level over the Utah Securities Commission, and I saw the SEC in response to the Madoff scandal. They came out in a headline. I was up late at night. I'm an insomniac, but I'm up, on the internet where I shouldn't be, and I saw a headline come across that said SEC to send its staff off to fraud college to better be able to detect fraud. And I'd been there for 13 years in total government service. I knew that they had no intention of doing that, and I knew there was no such thing as fraud college. So I decided that I would see if the domain name fraud college was available. And I got on GoDaddy, and I found fraud college, and I reserved all domains. And so with mostly my government friends, we put together an affinity fraud, anti-fraud awareness program. We did one in Utah County. Again, Utah County, good people, lots of fraud. And forgive me if I'm offending anybody who lives in Utah County, but I think what happens is the percentage of Mormons go up in Utah County as you sort of leave Salt Lake, and you see it more often. So we did one in Utah County, we did one at the University of Utah. They were both huge events. I mean, we had an article that you saw on your webpage that Ed should post on, or at least on your Facebook page, from The Economist magazine. Very, very erudite, exclusive publication covered this very program. We had people from Fox Business News in New York City that flew out to cover it. It was in Al Jazeera. So this was a big deal, and one of the funnest parts of it was something that I called, and I didn't speak, I was behind the scenes. I don't want the credit for this. Our current Attorney General is taking credit for it. He did help a lot, and he's a good guy, he's a good friend, but so I set up a website, we set up a nonprofit, and my favorite part of this is something that was called an interfaith panel. So we had people from every predominant religious community, Christian or not, on a panel to talk about this notion of how to avoid fleecing your own flock. And it was fantastic to hear a rabbi and our archbishop, long term. I went to parochial schools growing up, but I forgot what the head of the local parish is called. And again, we had this wonderful Baptist minister, and they all spoke freely about this problem. Never has happened before. Never had happened before. Hasn't happened since. Other than the second one we did at the University of Utah, where we did the same thing. The first one, interestingly enough, had a hard time getting the Mormon Church to participate. In fact, I had to eventually get a BYU professor who specializes in accounting-related fraud to be a placeholder there on that panel. Well, second year, they were calling me when they heard about this, and they showed up and they gave a very thoughtful, very insightful presentation, fully engaged. But that was a long way of saying, in fact, it was a 6-minute way of saying that the stat that Tom gave you, about 1.4 billion, was the last time that really anybody quantified fraud losses in the state, and that was 2010. So in that year, it also happened to be a year that we did our first event. And I thought, okay, I want to put that number in perspective. That's a big number, $1.4 billion in fraud losses. So what do you think our revenue is from, well, what's our biggest industry here in Utah? No. I mean, it's what's the revenue? Who said, well, skiing, exactly. So outdoor industry is the biggest industry. So how much money do you think the skiing industry brings in every year? $1 billion. So basically, our fraud losses wash out our $1 billion of the ski industry. It's just astonishing to me. So there's reason to be careful. But the one thing I don't want to do, and I think Tom touched on this too, trust is a good thing. This is an abuse of trust, but I don't want to squash trust. For lots of important empirical reasons here. I mean, you see lots of studies show that people who are trusting are happier and healthier. I mean, our default, our psychological default is to trust someone. And again, there's this wonderful 2014 Oxford study that shows that people are healthier and happier if they have the ability of trusting their community and trusting their state, as in their government. Great book I read called The Geography of Bliss talks about why people are happy and where people are happy. A few principles that came out of it at the very end are that countries with higher levels of trust tend to grow better economically and have sounder public institutions. That people are happier too because they can trust their government. You can imagine that the people in Latvia or Tajikistan are less happy than the people even in Utah because we have some confidence in our system of government. People who trust tend to do more volunteer work. Yeah, fascinating. So trust makes Utah a nice place. Again, it's a very trusting community. So we don't want to eliminate what makes this place nice to live in. But there is a solution, and that is trust. But verify. Old Ronald Reagan, I'm too young, I will admit, to have heard Ronald Reagan say that. But I do know that it's attributed to Ronald Reagan. And it applies very much here. We need to still trust, but we need to do our homework. So here's a little, well, I won't tell you it's a test so you'll know, but here it is. So, who would you rather invest your money with? at those two. Okay, you got Goldman Sachs, this fine Wall Street institution, and then you have this very clean-cut looking guy that has, bleached his teeth, and so and he lives next door. You can't read there with the guy next door. So who would you trust? Who would you rather invest your money in? Okay, don't answer. Let me just give you a few little headlines here. Goldman, among 8 firms to settle says, Goldman sources say Goldman will avoid criminal charges. Former Goldman Sachs director convicted of insider trading. Goldman fined last the Australian Securities Commission. Goldman Sachs to settle a large security suit. Okay, so factor that into this test question. Who would you rather invest with? All right. There's no right answer. I have to be careful, but I agree with Brent Baker, who writes for the Rolling Stone, and I think is one of the best financial journalists in this decade. And I don't say that because I'm probably the only Utah lawyer to ever be quoted in the Rolling Stone, but Matt Taibbi he's the one that gave Goldman Sachs the label as the giant vampire squid stuck on the face of humanity. And the whole Occupy Wall Street movement, when they were camped out in front of Goldman in Washington, D.C., they had tons of these, papers, just squids everywhere. I would highly recommend that. He has a great piece that is called Why is Wall Street in Jail? One of the best pieces of financial journalism around. But we're talking here about affinity fraud in particular. So this is a flavor of fraud. What I'm going to talk about internet-related fraud. That is there. Let me just tell you, there aren't many, if any, Nigerian princes with millions of dollars who need your help. All he needs is your bank account. There just aren't that many. That was funny. And that's the only one I'll give you. Don't believe that. Be very cautious on the internet. A topic for another day. So, I did an NPR show. It was Radio West. And it was on this topic. I had a professor who spoke as well, and she spoke about something that's called prosperity theology, which it has always intrigued me, and I've done a lot of research on it since then. And it's really a contortion of basic Christianity, and that is wealth is a result of righteous conduct. That's a big problem in this community. This prosperity theology, I think, if there's anything that the Mormons need help with, that's what they need help with, because it stems from the Dark Ages. Sorry, I got a little spider here. It stems from the Dark Ages, when the peasants saw the wealthy landowners who were pious and religious, and they equated wealth with pleasing God. And that's something that's just been ingrained in religiosity, in the DNA of religions since the Dark Ages. So really, again, even the religion controlled all information. Peasants didn't learn to read. Peasants were not given books. It's dangerous to believe that God wants you to be rich, or that wealth means that God loves you. Because I'm living proof that, I think I'm a good person and I'm not rich. So there's no connection there. But it's this sort of medieval notion this in because, as I was talking to someone, oh, there it is. It sounds medieval, it is. Okay, so I had a matter that took me to London last year, and I got to tour the original library of Westminster Abbey. It was fascinating, and it ties in here a little bit, but I had to tour this. So there's this notion, I don't know how well you can see it. This is a picture of the library, but the books are chained to the bookcases. It's actually a beautiful thing, but chained books, that's how books were kept for years. They did not want the masses to get information because they wanted to be perceived as blessed and righteous and not thieves. Through this in because my hobby, I collect books, as I was talking to you, right? I'm a book binder and conservator as well. And that's really where my passion is. I just do this law stuff that's my highest and best economic use. All right, so again, Tom touched on this a little bit. Well, when we think of investments, we think of buying stock on NASDAQ or the New York Stock Exchange. We don't think of what I call off-market investment schemes. So rarely will you get pitched these days by a stockbroker to invest in shares that are traded on any market. The days of sort of the Wolf of Wall Street oil are over. The government doesn't do a lot right, but they have pinched down on that area enough that you'll get very few calls from high pressure, Long Island oil rooms asking you to buy some new stock. The definition of an investment, the definition of a security, which is what it's called, is very wrong. So there's a three-part test that comes from a crazy case out of Florida. You have to have an investment of money in a common enterprise with the expectations of profits that come from the efforts of others. Okay, so that's the actual legal test. But breaking that down, it means you have to invest money with a bunch of other people, and you're not responsible for how much return you generate. Someone else is. If you've got those things, it is a security, and it has to be registered, and it has to be sold by somebody who's licensed, or they violate the law. And that's a strong indicator of fraud. So it's just stocks and bonds. The case I was telling you about, they gave those three definitions. Someone was selling interest in an orange grove in Florida. So it's a broad spectrum. And we'll talk about some of those that are more common today. I mean, come in, read the newspaper. Well, I guess they used to do. They get on the internet, they watch TV, so they know what is current. I predict we'll start seeing investment schemes with the community based on this whole Brexit, on the whole British, hey, listen, we found a secret way to take advantage of that situation, and you can be rich where only rich people could be rich before. Oh, this is cool. I'm better than I thought. I'm just going to make all these normal ones. Okay, so these are just some common schemes. One thing that's just everywhere, and it's a train wreck, are these things called unsecured promissory notes. If anybody's trying to get you to invest in a promissory note, you know it's wrong. Pure and simple. There are no investments interests in promissory notes that are legitimate. Forex trading schemes, that means trading on foreign currencies. I think that's where we'll see this whole Brexit fraud come up. I think you're going to find someone who's going to say, listen, there's a currency differential now. They don't use the euro. The dollar's strong. Come invest with me. Be very cautious. One of the things that I really like that Tom said, if it's not right, you know that there is something wrong. Because anytime you sell an investment to someone, whether it's off-market or on-market, off-market exemptions have to have a private offering document, a disclosure document that tells you the risks and the risk factors and concerns. And of course, if it's on-market, stocks and bonds, or even interesting synthetic instruments, ETFs, exchange-traded funds, or the very things that brought down our economy, like CMOs and CEOs interested in bundles of mortgages. Long story, but there will always be disclosure documents that accompany a legitimate investment. Equity stripping schemes, these are terrible, these are so dangerous. These are basically stripping the equity in your home. Reverse, not necessarily a reverse mortgage, but that's similar concept. So for example, you give us the equity in your home, and they slowly eat away until you have no equity left in your home. Absolutely a violation of law. Precious metal schemes, I saw Brazilian emeralds scheme, where there were barrels of raw Brazilian emeralds. People lost millions of dollars. It was just a bunch of gravel. I love these phony international prime bank schemes too. Prime bank schemes have been around for a long time, and what their basic pitch is, we have access to something that heretofore has only been available to a select few very wealthy people. There are these interbank transactions that you can participate in now through me, because I have this super secret key code, and invest with me, and you can take part of these transactions that we all know are going on. I mean, there's a secret handshake for rich people. We all know that. But secret handshake is they got family money and they're making more money like that. There's no secret handshake, and there's no way for anybody to participate in any sort of prime bank scheme. How many people know who Charles Ponzi was, or anything about it? What was his scheme? Do you remember? This scheme that made the Ponzi term famous?
Match factor.
The stamps.
Yeah. Stamps.
Yeah, so that's an element of a Ponzi scheme. But Charles Ponzi, I love that picture of him. He actually was selling interest in stamps early on. But again, the elements of the Ponzi scheme will come next, and you nailed the very first one. Madoff was a Ponzi scheme. Madoff was one of the bigger Ponzi schemes in our decade. So Madoff, his scheme was very, very much affinity based. It was based on the Jewish community primarily. And even in Utah, there's a Jewish nonprofit that lost over $20 million. Just gone. I mean, this is $65 billion lost in that scheme. And lots of lives were lived, lots of tragedy. But what he did was he made the investment seem like it was available. So if you wanted to invest with him, he would let you invest in him. You had to earn your way into investing, which is one of the psychological tricks they use. I'm sorry, you can't. And then the next time you hear about it and ask about it, well, you submit your paperwork every year, we'll see if there's, you know, it's that kind of thing. And he had people begging to invest year after year. He actually had you talk about licensing, it's not always a cure, but it certainly is better to look for. But he had a licensed, a FINRA licensed broker-dealer. He was having routine examinations by the United States Securities and Exchange Commission for 10 years, and no one caught this Ponzi scheme. He basically took the money and used it, and would send out fake statements. As simple as that. Never invested in anything he said he was investing. So the trustee in that case, who is charged with liquidating everything, worked out a deal with his wife where she got $1 million in an apartment, and the rest of the assets were all taken: watches, boats, jets. And then as this trustee started to gobble down the chain, and as the government started to go down the chain of who got the money, his children were implicated, and we talked about one of his kids actually committed suicide. Tragedy, tragedy. Very, very big Affinity fraud. There's another, the second largest one was the Sir Ellen Stanford Investment Bank case. That was $10 billion. And I know a lot about that one because I represented someone in that case. It was an Affinity fraud that was spread through the Baptist community in the South. So it's, you know, it is a moral problem. It's a trust problem. All right, let's talk about quickly the elements of the Ponzi scheme. You've got the illusion of the successful investment. It's all about illusion. Money from new investors is used to pay earlier investors. You won't see that. Little or no legitimate business revenue, high pressure, somebody said, talked about to roll your money over and reinvest. There's this rollover concept because when people start pulling their money out, that's when the Ponzi nature of this exposes itself. You have to continually be bringing in new money and have that be a higher number than the money that's exiting, or your Ponzi will collapse. Ponzi schemes aren't, well, they come in lots of different varieties. These are some that I see. So you see lots of people who say, invest with me, we're flipping homes. We're buying distressed real estate. Some new cool technology. I've seen a plastic to oil company. No, yes, plastics to oil. Taking old recycled plastic, turning it into usable petroleum. Hard money lending is a big one here. We have a wacky relationship with our finance community, with payday lending. Again, that's a difficult area for me to tolerate, but hard money lending, which is a term that just means people who can't get loans for very fast-moving, quick deals, they go to a hard money lender rather than a bank. And so basically what this guy says is we need to pool a bunch of money so we can make these fast-moving loans. They have high interest rates. We have no usury law here in Utah. So people can charge any interest rate they want. Some states have laws that limit the cap that. And as I said, comment read the newspaper. You see homeland security stuff. You see anti-terrorism. I've seen just some amazing and interesting frauds. Green companies. Now you're going to see, I believe, lots of stuff based on what's going on in Britain. Okay, so some psychological tricks. Smart comment use emotion. Emotion comes before logic. If you think about a decision-making chain, someone says, I want you to give me your dollars, and I will take them and do this and give you back this much money. So we like to think that we will evaluate that rationally, sort of in a cold, harsh, dark way. Well, normally we might, and we should. But these comments understand that emotion comes before logic and facts and figures. It's really the same reason why Super Bowl ads use puppies and kittens, and they play on emotion. They always try and play on emotion because emotion comes first in that decision-making chain. You know, there are studies where they will subject people to situations that create extreme emotion in order to see if that gets them to let their guard down. Really, there are studies that show that if you have to go to the bathroom, you're going to suspend your common sense and invest. If there's a great study where they had people cross the street and they jaywalked, and then someone would come up and ask them for money. Sort of, hey, listen, my brother's got cancer, I'm crazy man. Well, if the people jaywalked and they didn't hear like a policeman blow his whistle, then they would not give money. So if they jaywalked, but the policeman blew his whistle, they quickly look, and the policeman wasn't looking at them. They felt this great rush of emotion. I just dodged something. Someone would come up and say, my brother has cancer, can you spare $1? They would like 80% of the time give $1. So emotion comes first. So you have to be careful about schemes that are pitching that.
Go ahead and start wrapping yourself up.
Yeah, I'm trying to burn through this quickly because Tom talked about a lot of it. Familiarity breeds affection. That's common sense. So common red flags, high rate of return, everything, every investment, there is a direct relationship between risk and reward. So if they're promising you a lot of reward and very low risk, walk the other way. Most investments should have a legitimate accounting firm that's reviewed them. There's something, I want to get to the part where we talked about licensing, we talked about you got to figure out well, how they're going to get paid on this, whose interests they're protecting. Okay, well this is interesting, this is important. This is something that happens a lot in Utah too. It's called, the comment call it a reload. So if you've been victimized once, you are especially susceptible to being victimized again. I can't tell you the number of people that have been reloaded. And it's because they say, I know you have, it seems like you've lost your money, but if you give me more, we'll give it all back. Don't fall for that. All right, so what can you do? We talked about this, there's a new white collar crime offenders registry. So, interesting. It's always been available at the Utah Securities Division. Also, investor.gov at the SEC. They're great resources. I like this notion of a neighborhood community fraud watch. There's only so much the government can do. I think that groups like this are better placed to build fences on the cliff column. So in this area, you have an option. You can either build fences at the top of the cliff so people don't fall off, or you can buy more ambulances at the bottom. And this group is building fences at the top of the cliff. That's what you're doing by educating yourself. Again, some resources to help you explore, and this thing that you guys are doing is great. More eyes on the target. Catch these things earlier. Prevention and assistance with due diligence, fences versus ambulances. And the last thing is something that my dad used to tell me whenever we would build a fence in our backyard, anything. You'd go and you'd measure the board, and he would say you measure twice and cut once. So that's a good rule of thumb when it comes to parting with your money. Measure twice before you get it. And I'll leave it with that.
Any questions?
So, because obviously the multi-level marketing capital is over here, the world is over here, how can you determine all of these things all the time? Oils, soaps, vitamin, whatever it is. How can you tell when one of those companies is actually a legitimate business compared to that? Because it's obviously bringing emotions. You got testimonials, just like that testimonials on the meetings.
Sure. And multi-level marketing companies are a very unique flavor of investment products. I mean, everything from new skin to some new berry that cures cancer. But the way the compensation program is structured is critical. So if they're selling an opportunity to enlist a downline, it's an illegal pyramid.
But that's what they all do.
They all do that, but if that's the only thing they're doing, if there is no sale of a legitimate product, then it's an illegal pyramid.
I'm sorry. It seems like most of them, the reason I'm asking is because I've been involved with you, I've lost my shirt. And it seems like every one of them have a product or a service, but it seems really, really high price for what you're getting. Of course, that difference is going to the upline. That's how they do it. How can you tell? I mean, I remember, okay, this is back, you know some of these people. Remember the diamond pyramid scheme back here in high school? All of them got involved in that, so they trusted it, and of course, they lost their shirt. I don't know why we would trust all of them.
But that's Affinity fraud you're talking about.
Yeah, but I mean, so there was one that ended up being fraud, but it was really very similar to some of the others, because they took these diamonds and they charged 10 times what it cost. All of that went to the other one, but isn't that what UCN, all of
And USANA, all those folks.
And
doTERRA, such, I guess they're multi-level too as well. It's a difficult thing because it's very nuanced. It's the difference between a multi-level marketing program and an illegal pyramid. And it has everything to do with actual sales of product. It doesn't mean sales just to a distributor. A distributor has to be selling a product. So if it's way overpriced and they're not going to get their neighbor or their dog, their grandpa or their dog to buy this oil, I mean, yeah, it's a tough thing, but it's something to think about. A lot of them are legitimate. It's a social selling process.
The difference there is you can have a product and it's a legal business, but only 1 or 2% of the people are going to make any money on it. Everybody else pays that top 2%. It's still legal. It's not fraud. It's just a bad business.
Well, there are a lot of things that are legal that are fraudulent, in my opinion.
would you put back up the slide with the resources?
I'm happy to give this slide deck to anybody that wants it. And I'm also happy to put it back up. But I think we have a time constraint issue here.
Well, and we have the slide on the video, and I'm happy to post those links to our Facebook page if you just want to get it there.
It'll be there. There are good resources.
Can you just send me the?
Yeah.
Would you be able? Okay, we'll do that.
Yeah. Other questions?